Hi everybody and welcome to Out of the Gate, Daily Racing Form's weekend handicapping preview program. I'm Dan Illman. Thanks so much for watching. Here's what's coming up in this week's edition of Out of the Gate. Daily Racing Form handicappers Mike Beer, Matt Bernier, and I are going to take a look at three major stakes races. The Grade 3 Howell's Hope Stakes at Gulfstream Park featuring the return of Irish Warcry. The Grade 3 Daytona Stakes at Santa Anita featuring the return of Stormy Liberal. We'll also look at the Wishing Well Stakes at the Great Race Place. Nicole Russo's Pedigree Pick segment focuses on the Texas Glitter Stakes at Gulfstream Park on the turf. Jonathan Kinchin's JK's Play of the Day, a daily double at Santa Anita. David Aragona's Timeform U.S. Spotlight looks at race number 8 at Aqueduct on Saturday. Peter Thomas Fornatel will give you the latest news and updates on the tournament world, plus horses to watch, best bets, and lots more. So let's break Out of the Gate. We begin Out of the Gate with our Horse Watch segment. Matt Bernier, you've been spending a lot of time this winter handicapping Tampa Bay Downs, and you've got one at Tampa for this week's Horse Watch.
Yeah, I think this is a pretty nice horse called Madison's Luna. We're going to go back and take a look at the career debut. This was just about 2 weeks ago. The horse that's out on the front end right now, that's a runaway speed that already had a race under his belt. And this horse, Madison's Luna, goes and collars him. You see him hanging on the left lead. He's a little bit on the green side. The thing that I found so encouraging about this, forget about the 80 Buyer, trained by Phil Bauer. This horse is a half to Terra's Tango, is a half to Scarlet Strike, and is a half to Visionaire. So there's plenty of pedigree and plenty of things to make you think that this horse could ultimately turn into something by Taffet. So I think all things considered, a good career debut, and maybe this is one to keep forward.
Lots to like from pedigree and performance, that's to be sure. Mike Beer, NYRA analyst, you found a horse that recently has switched surfaces and has found a new home.
Yeah, it hasn't been easy to find horses to watch in New York the last few weeks, but Start with Silver is certainly a horse to keep an eye on, at least for a few more starts going forward. Spent a lot of time on turf the last 2 years. Linda Rice switched her over to dirt for her last 2 starts. She exploded to win 2 starts back off of a little bit of a layoff. And then they brought her right back in the Broadway in this effort. She caught a sloppy track. She was last at the top of the stretch. And here she comes swinging to the outside. And she is just, for the second time in a row since coming back to dirt, just going to charge right over the top of this field. 96 Buyer speed figure. You know what, Dan? I don't know where she goes from here. I don't know what her next start's going to be, but wherever it is, she's a horse to keep an eye on because she has totally turned her life around on the main track.
With that rich New York bred stakes program, I wouldn't be surprised if Linda wheels her right back for another sprint against fellow straightbreds. But with that 96 Buyer and the way she's kicking home, she might even be a factor against open horses. My Horse Watch, a factor against open horses last week. He got a nice setup in the Razorback. Let's watch Hawakam. This is a Corey Lannery special, saving ground every step of the way, a la Calvin Burrell in his heyday. I have no idea how he was able to slice through down towards the inside and mid-stretch and go by the leaders, but it was nice to see Hawakam get a race. He was second in the Razorback last year behind Gunrunner. There were no gun runners in this field, and this is a horse that never gets bet. He always seems to fire, and if you give him the right trip and right circumstance, he could pop a number like this, a 101 in the Razorback handicap. After the race, the connections were saying, well, we hope for an invitation to Dubai, and I would say good luck with that. I think that's a little bit too tough. But Hawakam can still pick off races like the Oaklawn handicap, and he's a horse, again, that rarely gets bet. Yet, yes, he got a nice scenario in the Razorback, but he's a hard hitter. Watch out for him if he does come back in the Oaklawn handicap. Let's get to some handicapping. Let's take a look at the Grade 3 Howell's Hope featuring Irish Warcry. Let's take a look at the field for the Grade 3 Howell's Hope Stakes at Gulfstream Park on Saturday. For expanded stakes previews of all the major stakes races this weekend, head on over to video.drf.com or the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. We talk about every horse in every major stakes race. Matt, the number 1 Irish Warcry, 5-2 morning line favorite, understandably so, off a very productive 3-year-old campaign. What are we getting off the bench?
I gotta be honest, I don't really know because things kind of tailed off at the end of last year in his 3-year-old campaign. The best race of his career thus far, I think it's pretty safe to say, the Belmont Stakes. We're going to take a look at that replay right now. Unfortunately for him, I don't think he got the distance, and I think the horse that beat him that day, Tappert, just handled it a little bit better than he did. The question is, the good Irish Warcry can win this race, but are you going to get the good one off the layoff? Graham Motion seems to think that a flat mile is actually what he wants all along. I would just question if that's the case, why hasn't he done it yet? But I don't know. I mean, to be honest with you, if he shows up and runs his race, he can win at a short price. I don't want to find out.
I kind of agree with that. Also, Send It In, a horse coming off an even longer layoff with that gaudy 119 Beyer speed figure. He could easily win this race. He's going to take money like Irish Warcry, and I would rather find somebody else considering that layoff, despite Todd Pletcher's gaudy statistics. Mike, you're in agreement. You like Chad Brown.
Yeah, I'll take the third horse off a layoff in this race, hopefully at a better price than the first two horses we just talked about. Economic Model for Chad Brown. We haven't seen this horse since last October when he was in an allowance race at a flat one-turn mile at Belmont Park. Here's the replay of that race. I thought he ran really well in here. This early pace in this race was very slow to develop. They picked things up around the turn of this race. I like the way that Economic Model kept these horses in range around the turn. He's clear in the stretch, and I just like the way he finishes here, guys. Out in the clear for the final eighth, and he's going to kick in and run this field down. I like this performance for this horse. I think this is his game. The one turn, 7/8 to a mile is probably what he's absolutely best at. If he can get a trip on Saturday like he got in that race, I think he's a big player in here if he's ready off the layoff.
I've never been right about this horse, which means he wins for you in the Howell's Hope. He does have a nice stalking ability. It'll be interesting to see how this pace develops, because there are a few speeds in here, Matt. Most notably, your sort of outsider play. Let's talk about Conquest Big E. This is a horse that historically has shown speed. He was forced to be taken out of his dimension last time out, and you could argue he ran his best race ever.
Yeah, I got to be honest. I thought he ran a winning race in the hoop. The problem is he ran into Tommy Macho, and little did we know Tommy Macho would look the best he's ever looked in his entire career. We're going to take a look at the Hooper right now. He's the big gray on the outside. He comes with a serious bid. The problem is, again, Pletcher, Gulfstream, not going to go by him. Tommy Macho throws out the no passing sign. I thought Conquest Big E ran a giant race here, and you brought it up too, Dan. He can be much more forward than he was that day. If he can sit some sort of a pressing trip throughout, I think he's got a big chance in here.
I would even consider going. You've got the stretch out speed of Quixote. Maybe he'll go, and if he wants it, I think Conquest Big E would be very pleased to be sitting second off of that horse. Legacy, I guess, can show a little bit of speed, but if Conquest Big E breaks, I think there's a pretty big rider change here to Luis Saez. I wouldn't have any problem with Conquest Big E going to the top. He's my top selection as well in this race. I think the price is going to be right. I am worried that he might be a little bit cheap compared to the three big names in this race, but at the price, Conquest Big E might be the right one in the Grade 3 Howell's Hope Stakes. Nicole Russo is going to take a look at a stakes race earlier on the Gulfstream Saturday card, the Texas Glitter Stakes, and then Peter Thomas Fornatel will keep you up to date on the latest news and notes in the tournament world in his Tourney Talk segment. Let's hit those segments right now.
Hey guys, Nicole Russo coming to you from Lexington, Kentucky for Out of the Gate. A busy Saturday down at Gulfstream Park, and let's take a look at the field for one of those stakes on their card, the Texas Glitter. 3-year-olds sprinting on the turf, a healthy sized field here. I think it's an intriguing betting race, and I want to take a look at 3 who will be trying turf for the first time. And let's start with a colt by a late stallion who was so prominent in the state of Florida, the aptly named Wildcats Legacy by Wildcat Air. This colt is trying turf for the first time in his 4th career start. A minor stakes winner against his fellow Florida breds last November before finishing 6th in the inaugural at Tampa. Bounced back from that by throwing down a bullet in his most recent work. But now Wildcat Air, a perennial leading sire and turf sire in Florida. He was posthumously the state's leading turf sire last year. A full sister to Wildcats Legacy, Red Minx, was stakes placed on the turf. This is the extended family of Commonwealth Turf winner Hey Dakota and significant form who won last year's Miss Grillo. I do think Wildcats Legacy is well equipped for the surface switch and might fly under the radar against some of the flashier horses in here. Shang Royal is making his first start since his maiden score last July for Wesley Ward. This colt's from the well-regarded first crop of Shanghai Bobby, a juvenile champion who I do think has got the ability to throw turf horses, being by the versatile Harlan's Holiday. This colt's dam has 5 other winners. Those include Cali 37, a multiple stakes winner on the turf, and Southern Honey, who broke her maiden on synthetic before going on to become a Grade 3 winner on dirt. Their dam is half to Runway Model, a multiple Grade 2 winner on dirt, and now the dam of Grade 1 winner and leading Kentucky Derby hopeful McKinsey. The extended pedigree is definitely more dirt type on first look, but some turf stakes horses sprinkled throughout there. This one really wouldn't surprise me at all, especially with the versatility of the sire line. And lastly, let's look to the inside with Salmanazar, an impressive debut winner from the second crop of Shackelford. He's being seen for the first time since finishing 7th as the favorite in the Tremont last June. He showed terrific speed in that debut when beating a subsequent graded winner in Copper Bullet. He showed that he still has that brilliance in posting 3 consecutive bullet works in preparation for his comeback for Todd Pletcher. Another pedigree maybe slanted more toward dirt on first glance, but with some turf ability there. Shackelford has several turf winners, including a pair of black type winners already on his resume, and the dam is half to Grade 3 turf placed Foster's Landing. That's all from me this week on Out of the Gate. It's now time for Peter to bring you some tournament talk. Thanks for tuning in, as always.
Peter Thomas Fornatale back with you on Out of the Gate. Once again, as you can see in the Brooklyn bunker, for those of you watching, those of you listening on podcasts have no idea what I'm talking about, but that's okay. I'm here to talk about tournaments, as I do every week on this show. And really what I'm here to do this week is to introduce a new season in tournaments. Live bankroll season is upon us, folks, and that is reflected with some exciting new inventory on the DRF Tournaments website. Starting off this Saturday, we have qualifiers for Keeneland's Grade 1 Gamble, annually one of the most attended events of the spring in the contest world. If you want to win your way into the Keeneland Grade 1 Gamble, it's $410 this Saturday. The top 10% will win their $3,000 entries, as well as $500 in travel. $2,000 of that acts as a live bankroll. $1,000 fuels the prize pool. It's a great event. Keeneland in the spring is fabulous. That's a Sunday event. That's Sunday the 15th. There's also a smaller live bank event for $400 on the Saturday. Check it out. Get involved. Also, this weekend on DRF Tournaments, we are announcing for the first time running qualifiers for the Gotham Day contest at Aqueduct. These are ones that New York specialists are going to want to get involved in. Very appealing for lower bank players, too. $60 to play. 10% of the entries win their $500 buy-ins for the Gotham contest, which takes place on Saturday, March 10th. And just because the live bank contests are here doesn't mean that the mythical events go away. There's still one major to come, and it's out in Las Vegas. Very popular event, the Horse Player World Series, a.k.a. the Matisse Family Reunion. This one costs $94, and 1 in 19 will win their entries to the Orleans. Last year, Pete Puig ran first and second and won over $330,000. We're talking big money on offer at the Orleans here, folks. You can check that out as well. These events are all happening on DRF Tournaments this weekend, as well as a full array of other games. Go to tournaments.drf.com to check it all out. You can also read about tournaments via the website. If you go to the tournament news drop-down menu, I wrote a story this week I really want folks to check out about a guy named John Rowe and his emotional journey in the contest world. Very proud of that piece, very proud of John Rowe and how he did out in Vegas a couple of weeks hence. So check that out. Do me a favor. That's all I have for this week on Out of the Gate, but stay tuned for more right after this.
You asked, we listened. DRF Plus has more flexible subscription options. Use DRF Plus Basic for exclusive news and analysis, including our DRF Live real-time news feed. Or go deeper with DRF Pro and unlock buyers, closer looks, picks, and reports, including the DRF Daily Game Plan. DRF TV viewers get 50% off the plan of your choice. Use code DRFTV50 at checkout. Learn more about the DRF Plus subscription plans at drf.com/plus.
Welcome back to Out of the Gate. Let's take a look at the field for Saturday's DRF Bets Race of the Day. It's the Grade 3 Daytona Stakes going down the hill at about 6.5 furlongs on the Santa Anita turf course. For expanded stakes previews, visit video.drf.com. For free formulator past performances, visit the Race of the Day event page at drf.com. This is a fun race featuring the return of the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint winner, the number 7 Stormy Liberal, but he is certainly not the only major contender in this race. Matt, you're going with one of my sons, another horse that's always disappointed me. I am off, you're on. Congratulations.
Well, the problem with Perfectly Majestic is he doesn't necessarily like to win races very often. We're going to take a look going a little bit farther back in his PPs. This was in the Thunder Road last year where he ran just fine, don't get me wrong, but this is kind of what Perfectly Majestic does. He finds a way to lose races that he's probably not supposed to. He's got dead aim right here, and he still ends up losing this. I think the most recent run, though, the Clocker's Corner, which we'll get to momentarily, to me it just signified, and it looked like a horse that he just got a little bit tired at the end. He put in a bid and he flattened out. I'm hopeful second start off the bench, maybe they line up in front of him as far as the pace is concerned, and he can come down at the end.
I agree about his last performance. That race, Calculator, who we'll get to in a second, was able to get to the front, set a very quick opening quarter, then sort of back down the pace. Perfectly Majestic. You know, he lost his cover entering the turn. He came with a good bid at Calculator. He just couldn't get there. It was his first start off a long layup. He could certainly move forward. The pace should be fair. But Mike, Calculator is just sort of, you know, reinvented himself as a down-the-hill turf sprinter. He's undefeated from 3 starts, and he actually broke last time. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he does in this race. Let's take a look at that video that you were just talking about, though, with Perfectly Majestic taking a run. This time, Calculator just went right to the lead in here and wired this field. His prior 2 wins last year down the hill, he didn't go to the front in those races. He sat off the pace and came with really nice runs through the stretch to close those races down. We'll see what happens in this race. I don't expect him to be on the lead on Saturday's race. I think he'll be off the pace again. I just look at this horse, guys, and think, to me anyway, for a horse who's always been a little ouchy, had his little problems, he just looks like a much more comfortable horse sprinting on grass than he does when they run him anywhere else. And I'm just hoping he sits off the pace in this race and comes running in the stretch. Now, his versatility should play very well in here. There are some other speeds. He can easily sit third and maybe try to get the jump on some of the stalkers and closers in the stretch. Stormy Liberal, though, is the story of this race, and he's going to be my top pick. The price is not very appetizing. I just think he's the best horse, and he is also adaptable to any kind of pace scenario. Let's go back to his win in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. Keep in mind this race is at Del Mar at 5 furlongs, and I think it's actually a little bit short for Stormy Liberal, a horse who was making bank for most of 2017 going down the hill. After this race, they sent him to Hong Kong for an international Group 1, and he was just simply overmatched against those kind of horses. This competition is more to Stormy Liberal's liking, and I think a stalk and pounce trip will put Stormy Liberal in good stead in this year's Daytona Stakes. We're going to stay at Santa Anita for our next stakes preview. We'll go for the fillies and mares down the hill in the Wishing Well. Here's the field for the Wishing Well. Fillies and mares, a restricted stake at Santa Anita. Closing out the card is race number 10. $70,000 is the purse. For expanded stakes previews of all the major stakes races this weekend, head on over to video.drf.com or the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. It's a big field. There is a potential for a big favorite, however, Mike. The number 5 Samba Inc. is a champion in her native Argentina, now with Bob Baffert getting blinkers and Lasix, and this horse has a big reputation. There's a lot of buzz surrounding her. It'll be very interesting to see what she does here in her stateside debut for Baffert, privately purchased by Juddmonte Farms after that championship season in Argentina. We'll see what we get from her. Obviously, it feels like she's going to be a relatively short price. I don't have a lot to say about her, but let's take a look at her last win over there. This is a major Group 1 race at a mile, and she just went right to the lead on this field and never let them get into the race. She's going to start back here for Baffert down the hill. I guess there are some things working against her. Layoff. She's never been down the hill before. You really don't know what she was beating in these races over here, but
you know, just based on the visuals of her races over there, she looks like she can run a little bit. I chalked it out with her, but you know, this race sort of goes beyond her as well.
She showed easy speed in this 1 mile race, and you're right, this is a major Group 1. The jock never took the whip out. Samba Inc. is obviously talented, but she is going to have to go down the hill for the first time off of a long layoff. Typical Baffert fast war tab. Won't be surprised at all if she wins. A must-use in any kind of multiple race wagers. But Matt, you and I are looking for a little bit of a price elsewhere. You're going with George Weaver's Malibu Stacy.
Yeah, Malibu Stacy, I just kind of feel like she has a little bit of tactical speed, and that can go a long way going down the hill. We're going to go back to her most recent victory. This was over the summer up at Saratoga, and she took advantage of the way that the turf course was playing up at Saratoga. It was very speed-friendly at this point. But at the same time, her pedigree, I'm surprised that she's only run on turf 4 times, because I kind of think this is what she's wanted all along. I'm not going to hold the Kalukan Queen against her most recently. That was on dirt, and it really felt like it was a means to an end for me. I thought the Goldakova that she ran 2 starts back was very, very good, especially considering who she was running against. I think if any of those fillies or mares were in this spot, they would be short prices anyway. I think Malibu Stacy, again, Samba Inc., way the horse to beat. But if I'm going to try to upset her, let me do it with a horse that has some tactical speed on the turn back.
She's a big price. My top selection in this race, a big price as well. That's the number 6, Anita Partner, 20-1 on the morning line. Anita Partner is going to need some pace. She's basically a one-run closer, but she's done very, very well down the hill in the past, most notably in last year's Grade 2 Monrovia Stakes. So we're going to take a look at that race right now. There's Anita Partner. That's where she's going to be, and they cross over the dirt patch near the back of the pack. She's going to swing all the way to the far outside, and she's going to come with a solid late run to finish 3rd behind 2 nice horses. Illuminant, who is a legitimate Grade 1 stakes horse in Southern California last year. Konaya, who is just as consistent as the day is long on both dirt and turf. That was a nice late run for Anita Partner, and I think the argument could be made that she has excuses for her last 3 starts. Her next 2 races after the Monrovia were at Del Mar, one in a distance too far, one at a distance too short. Then she went on an extremely long layoff. She didn't do much running last time out, but I also think that race was simply a prep. The Grade 3 Las Ciénegas, where she was buried down towards the inside, they only basically let her run the last quarter mile or so. I think Jeff Mullins is going to have Anita Partner a lot tighter this time around. She'll be my stab in this race. 20-1 on the morning line. I'm also going to use the Baffert runner. That horse could be any kind. JK's play of the day, a Santa Anita Daily Double, and then we've got David Aragona's Time Form U.S. Spotlight, taking a look at Aqueduct race number 8. Let's hit those segments right now.
Hey everybody, welcome to JK's Play of the Day. Little scratches last week because of the weather and some quarantine issues up at Belmont. This week we're going to go out to California. We don't suspect that there'll be any weather. We're going to play a daily double starting in the 4th race, the Grade 3 Daytona down the hill, one of my favorite races in American racing. I love that down the hill course. A horse that I've been waiting to see run down the hill for a long time, his entire career, is a horse by the name of What a View. I love horses that are on the front end, going long and mile races that have speed. And then when they cut back, they're extremely dangerous. One of my favorite scores of all time was Bobby's Kitten, very similar type of horse on the front end of mile races. And that cut back down the hill really helps him. I've been looking for What a View for a long time to do this. He's coming in off of a break. Obviously want to take a look at the workout report, make sure everything is going in the right direction with him. The old horse gets himself into condition. I don't see that being a problem. And the great part about it is some other horses in here that are going to take some money. Conquest Tsunami off of the win last time down the hill should take money. Calculator, a horse that's been running in California that usually takes money. And then obviously Stormy Liberal, Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint winner, will obviously take money there. I think we'll get value on What a View. And I'm going to start off by singling him in the front half of this double. And then in the second part of the double, going on to race 5, it's a maiden claimer. Nothing near the quality that you're going to see down the hill in the Daytona. I'm going to take the outside horse, Allie's Love, who I believe, there's no numbers on the PPs yet, I believe is the 8 horse. Allie's Love shows speed going 6 and 6.5 furlongs, cutting back to 5.5. I love horses in those situations where they show speed going 6 or 6.5 and then cut back to 5.5. Should have some finish there. Still quick enough to get on the front end. So ice cold double here. We're going to go with What a View and Allie's Love. We'll see you next week. Take care.
Hi everyone, this is David Aragona for this week's Time Form US Spotlight. We're going to take a look at the 8th race at Aqueduct on Saturday. It's a 10-horse field of New York breds going 6 furlongs, horses that have not won one of the races other than maiden, claiming, or starter. You can see up in the upper right-hand corner of the Time Form US preview screen that the red See Details button, if you click to expand that, this race is projected to feature a fast pace. And when you go through this field, you just see there are a lot of horses in this race that have done their best running under the lead. The horse that's predicted to be in front, the number 2 horse, Flash Drive, we'll take a look at his PPs. He's ridden by Paco Lopez. If there's any rider in New York who's just good at getting these speed horses out of the gate and into the lead, it's Paco Lopez. He's been on this horse for his past 3 races when he's shown a great deal of early speed. Now, he's run some of the fastest time formula speed figures in the race. If you go back to his races 2 and 3 back against Maiden Company, he's one of the only horses to have run triple-digit time formula speed figures. Last time, his number dipped a little bit. That was his first start against winners, and the pace of that race was extremely fast. He was dueling with the eventual winner that day, 9 Root, who actually came back to win his next start. And these two just opened up from the rest of the field, just went fractions that were far too quick for the distance and just kind of came to a stop at the end of the race. 9 Root was able to hold on, but Flash Drive, chasing too wide, just had the slightly tougher trip and couldn't quite finish the deal that day. If you look at the Beyer speed figures for that race, you see a real drop-off from his maiden special weight figures, but the time formula speed figure is a little higher because it's a pace-based speed figure, so he got some extra credit for setting that extremely fast pace. I think Flash Drive is one of the most talented horses in this race. He certainly has a chance to win this. It's just he's going to face other pace pressure again today, so it might not be an ideal situation for him. One horse that might get the right setup is the morning line favorite, Analyze the Odds. Now, if you look back at the time formulas preview screen, you saw that the overall expected race rating for this race was a 98. You see that Analyze the Odd in his past few races has been running in races where the race ratings were 104, indicating that they're just tougher spots. He was running in the Sleepy Hollow, the Notebook Stakes at Aqueduct, facing horses that, have been competitive in these stakes races and have done quite well running reasonably fast speed figures. Analyze the Odds, just not quite as good as those horses, so dropping into this non-winners of one optional claiming race is probably the right move for him. He's a deep closer. You just see he's the kind of plodding sprinter that drops way out of his races, needs a fast pace to have his best chance. He's probably going to get today, but he's going to need to work out the right trip. So I think he's one you want to include, but as the favorite, we might be able to find some better value in this race. Todd Pletcher, his trainer, actually has another horse in this race also. The number 10 horse, What a Catch, breaking from the far outside post position. Now, going back to the beginning of What a Catch's career, he was running some of the fastest speed figures in this race. Those 299s that he paired up in his second and third starts compare very favorably to Flash Drive's maiden races. It's just that since then, his form has really tailed off. Now, maybe he didn't want to go the 7 furlongs, 2 back in the Bertram F. Vanguard, and then last time in the Notebook. That race was really quite disappointing because he didn't show his typical early speed. He couldn't keep up with the horses that were setting the pace that day. And he had no answer through the stretch. He was passed by his stablemate, Analyze the Odds in the late stages. Just seemed like he might be a horse that's going in the wrong direction. On the other hand, he's coming in with some fast recent workouts. So maybe Todd Pletcher has him ready to run a better race today. He'll be somewhere about the 3rd or 4th choice in this race. If I'm going to look for some value in here among the contenders, I think the one that might get a little lost in the wagering and offer the best price relative to his chances to win is the number 3 horse, Ultimate Enticement, for Rick Violet. Going back to the summer at Saratoga last year in August, this horse ran 2 really nice races against Maiden Company. He ran a 90 time formula speed figure back on August 7th, and then he followed that up on August 31st by winning a race over New York Hero, who came back and significantly improved his speed figure at his next start when winning his maiden race. You see on the left side the pink color-coded race rating box with a 91F. The F is something, we put certain codes next to the race rating in some races to indicate speed figures that we might not be 100% confident in. The F in this situation indicates that the race featured a lot of first-time starters, so it's difficult to spot check the speed figure against other horses' previous races. But that speed figure seems to have held up over time, so it's reasonably reliable. After that race, Ultimate Enticement was thrown into a much tougher spot against Battle Station and What a Catch in a stakes race. Just seemed like something might have happened that day. He really couldn't keep up with horses very early on. He was under a hard ride and just sort of gave up, losing by 20 lengths that day. He's been off for a long time since then, so it seems like something might have happened in that race. Now he comes back for Rick Violet, who actually has decent statistics overall with horses coming off layoffs this type. You see he gets a 91 trainer rating with horses coming off layoffs of 116 to 194 days. The white box that it's in, as opposed to the yellow box, indicates that it's a pretty small sample size, but he does okay with this move. So Ultimate Enticement is a horse that can kind of slot in behind the speed horses. He's not really a speed crazy type. He can stalk. I think he just might work out the right trip. So anywhere around 5 or 6 to 1, it's Ultimate Enticement for me in the 8th race at Aqueduct on Saturday. Now let's send it back to the studio.
Time for our best bet segment here on Out of the Gate. Matt, you're going to Southern California at Santa Anita.
Southern California, Santa Anita, life's blessings for Bob Baffert. What else is new? Baffert's going to have a short-priced horse in a race like this. I feel bad giving out something that's probably going to be in the 6 or 7 to 5 range, but I like the most recent start that much. We're going to take a look at that right now. This race was at 6.5 furlongs. This race on Saturday is going to be at 5.5. She's already done all the dirty work. She's put all the other speed horses away, and now she's just going to get run down at the end. This was her first start in about 9 months. I thought it was a very, very good effort, all things considered. Second start off the bench now. You get Drayton Van Dyke back up, who he's been doing some good things with Baffert recently. I like that she's got some versatility. The distance isn't going to be an issue. She can sit, she can go, she can do a number of things. You won't get rich on her, but maybe you can use her as some sort of a key in a multi-race wager.
Mike Beard, NYRA analyst, you've got something at the Big A on Saturday.
Yeah, the 8th race is a non-winner, 1 optional 80 claimer for New York bred sprinters. I like Ultimate Enticement in this race, number 3 for Rick Violet. This horse showed up in New York last summer at Saratoga, ran really well in his New York debut, dueling a fast pace, getting run down by a heavily bet first-time starter. This was his very next start after that. A little bit more off the pace here in a race that had more speed signed on, a shorter sprint this time. He gets clear in the upper stretch and he charges through the final 8th, runs right over these horses. He starts back off a layoff here. He did not run well the last time we saw him in a stakes race, but I think something went wrong there. He's been away for a long time. He comes off the layoff, square price in a race that has a lot of pace on paper. He can get this same kind of trip and come running late.
I'm going to go to Laurel for my best bet. Race number 8, that's the number 4, Best Kind of Trouble. This is a very lightly raced 4-year-old, and he's got a good amount of upside potential, and he really caught my eye 3 starts back in a restricted allowance race at Laurel. We're going to take a look at that race right now. He was up close to the pace throughout, and he's turning into the stretch now with the lead and in control of this race, and he's going to go on to a very professional and solid win with a 77 Beyer speed figure. Curiously, after that race, he was away for 2 months, and he returned with only 1 published workout on the tab. He was asked to go 7 furlongs in that race, the longest distance he had ever gone in his career. He pressed the pace and tired, and last time out he caught a wet track that he didn't like, pressing 2 horses that are simply better than he is. Eastern Bay and Polar Jet are capable of running 90 Beyer speed figures. He doesn't have to deal with rivals of that caliber in Saturday's 8th race at Laurel, and he should be either sitting first or second in a race that doesn't feature a fast pace. He's 5-1 on the morning line, and I'm hoping he gets back to his very best form. I use Best Kind of Trouble and the 6th, the morning line favorite, for my best bet. That's race number 8, number 4, Best Kind of Trouble. We ask you to follow all of the latest DRF TV offerings on Twitter at DRF Video, and for the latest news and notes from America's Turf Authority Daily Racing Forum, please follow at DRF Inside Post. That's it for this week. Best of luck when your horses break out of the gate.